that are sunny. Looking back, it was all needed. The problems, the pain, the trauma, the grieving. You are now tuned in to the prisoner to painter. Prisoner to painter. Hard work, dedication. Rainy days, inspiration. Prisoner to painter. And now, a word from your local Pope dealer.
Keep me to himself. So now that I've done my own thing, I've noticed that I'm well. If it was
a good guy.
Yeah. But okay. Welcome to the Prisoner to Painter podcast. I'm Nathan McDermott,
And I'm Katie
and
McDermott.
today joining us is Chief Pittman of the Napoleon Township Police Department.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I am super excited. I've had on business owners, addicts, alcoholics, and I really wanted somebody from the police department on, so I really appreciate you coming.
Well, I appreciate the offer. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, normally we just go right into where you think your story starts. But I'm going to be a little nosy with you. How would you say your childhood was?
My childhood was really good. I grew up in the Stettler subdivision in Napoleon. A lot of people refer to it as a trailer park, but it's actually you own your own land, so it's not technically a trailer park. But I grew up there. My parents liked the idea of going snowmobiling and motorcycling and stuff like that. So my dad could have afforded a nicer home, but then we couldn't have done some of those things. So when I grew up, I would say, lower middle class or middle class. But we just had a ball as kids. I mean, riding motorcycles, snowmobiling up north, all those kind of things that afforded us that opportunity to do that. And once in a while, my mom will apologize. I just lost my dad last year, but they would say, "Man, I'm sorry. We could have done better." And I'm like, I had a great childhood. I had neighbors I played sports with. We're still great friends today. So I regret none of that. So I was pretty good. Normal kind of upbringing. I grew up in Napoleon. I've lived in Napoleon or Norval almost my whole life.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So everybody around there, it's funny because like me as a kid, I didn't realize. So you went to school with like Mr. Ash and all those guys?
Yeah, well, Mr. Ash came from Melvindale, I believe. And he was the principal for my daughter Caitlin, my son Austin, and my daughter Cal. He was the athletic director, co-principal during that time. When I graduated in 1980, he was probably still in school himself or college. So we're close to the same age. I think I'm a little older.
I was going to say either you look young or he looks old.
I would never say that to Scott. But no, it's the Napoleon School District. My dad went to Napoleon. My grandparents were in Norval. My cousins went to Napoleon. My grandkids go to Napoleon.
Wow.
All three of my kids. So I've been there, from there, and tried to stay around there most of my life.
Awesome. What did mom and dad do for work?
My mom worked at the school as a custodian towards the end, but was one of the lunchroom ladies for the longest time. Worked in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And then my dad was a head grocery clerk for Kroger. And he was there for, I think, 42 years.
Wow.
He worked at Kroger. And it was started out in Brooklyn when they used to have a Kroger there. And then he went to Adrian. And then he retired out of Ann Arbor.
Awesome.
So he retired, I think, at age 55 or 56.
Oh, wow. Good for him.
Yeah.
Well, and to me, that shows the difference in time that they probably made a hell of a good living doing that. And nowadays, it's like you can't really make it. Keeping that out of it, but that's awesome. That's cool.
Like I said, we had enough money to be, we were fed, we had clothes, but we weren't rich. I bought my own car. My dad bought it, and I paid him back.
Oh, cool.
And stuff like that. So, I mean, we were never wealthy, but as far as just, like I said, I never regretted all the time spent going up north. My grandparents rode snowmobiles with us, and they had three-wheelers, and we had motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. And I still ride motorcycles today. I just got back from a trip to New Jersey. So it's like my childhood is just, I don't think I've really ever grown up. And most people that know me would probably tell you that's true. So,
well, man, what was your first car then?
It was a 1966 MGB Roadster. So it wasn't the midget, but it was a Roadster. It was awesome.
Wow.
We got it out of the field.
It
had a tree going through it.
First car.
Yeah, a lot of work. My uncle was a body man, owned Napoleon Collision, and my dad and my uncle both were I would say Hellraisers is kids that were car guys. They grew up in Norval, and they were kind of well known in the Norval, Napoleon, Brooklyn area for being hot rodders. And they take a car in town and like street race with it.
Mhm.
Not that's illegal, but they would do it. And then like they tear the transmission or rear end out of the car. They tow it home with a chain, jack it up, put a new transmission in it out of one of the other junkers, and go back into town and continue to race like an hour and a half later. It's like a NASCAR pit crew. So I wound up with the kind of the addiction to speed and that adrenaline pretty normal. I mean, it kind of came along that way. So
Cool. Well, it sounds like you had a good childhood.
awesome.
I won't say too much in there then, because I know you have a lot of story after that. But the saying in childhood, what was your favorite cereal?
Quist.
Quist.
It was they were little yellow saucers. It was like a outer space cereal.
Okay.
Quist.
Sugary?
It wasn't really sugary. It was more like a vanilla flavored little saucer or whatever. And then of course Fruit Loops and Tiger cereal. We called it at the time instead of Frosted like Tiger cereal.
I was gonna say mine's all sugar. Mine's Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah.
Sugar. It's just all sugar.
Well, Frosted Flakes is that way. But my mom tried to keep most of that away from me.
Yeah.
She can't stop me as an adult.
I did want to say I did see that on Facebook. My condolences about your father. I
thank you.
To start with that.
Yeah.
Man, how old were they when they had you?
My mom was really young. I think my mom was 18 when she had me. She had my sister, Sherry. She was 10 and a half months older than me. And she passed away when she was 33 of cancer. So we were pretty close. She moved Alamogordo, New Mexico, and got cancer. So she has two wonderful little girls, or they're not little anymore, but and whatnot. But she's been gone a while. So, and then, like I said, Dad passed away. He was 85 when he passed away.
Okay. I'm just always nosy because my mom and dad are older,
Sure.
so I'm young.
Yeah.
And for somebody your age to just lose a parent, man, what's that? Because my mom and dad had me old, like they're old. So I'm just always curious.
Yeah. I still go down to Tennessee. My mom lives down there. My brother lives in Speedwell, or excuse me, Tazewell, Tennessee. Used to live in Speedwell. My mom lives in Follett, and I usually take a couple, 2-3 trips on the motorcycle, and then other trips go down there for the holidays. And it's about 501 miles from my door to my mom's. So go down there and hang out. I love Tennessee.
What do you ride?
I ride my Harley Davidson down there as often as I can. But when the weather's bad, obviously I'll drive down, and I just got a new motorcycle trailer recently, so that I can haul my bike around and take it down there in the cold weather, because it's a little warmer there. You can ride about 10 months out of the year down there.
So you're not a 1%er then?
No.
Okay.
Well, see, we don't make bets, but like people that we know better. She said Harley. I said, I bet you drive an Indian. So she won that.
I object.
Man, well, because she's like Harley. I said, well, if it's not a Harley, what's the next best thing? I was like, probably an
The
Indian.
Indians are actually, they're really nice motorcycles, but I like them.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, you were right. You were right. So from kind of childhood to what's next, man? Did you do sports in high school?
Yeah, I played baseball and basketball in high school. I'm a pretty good sized guy.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't as heavy as I am now, but I was 6'2" in high school, right around 185 pounds. And the football coach wanted me to play football. And I wanted to play football, but they wanted me to be a guard.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to be a guard. And I wanted a chance to be a tight end, or at least try out for another position that didn't seem like I was going to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So I just I love baseball and basketball. I love basketball probably the most, but I was probably a little better at baseball.
Okay.
But I played in high school, started when I was a senior, made the varsity baseball team when I was a sophomore.
Wow.
And played. And it wasn't really popular to do that back then.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty honored by that. Cool. And had a great baseball coach, or coaches, great basketball coaches. And I love that sport. My granddaughter's playing basketball now, so I'm on her constantly about basketball.
What was your favorite subject?
In school, gym.
Gym.
Yeah, I didn't do. I think I had a touch of the HDAD or ADHD. I had a touch of that. Probably still got it now. But it was. I just get bored when I was reading.
Yeah.
But if you read something to me, or they lectured, I'd do fine.
Mhm.
But if I had to read it, I would skip ahead. And I get bored and then I would just guess at answers. And I didn't want to be the last one done. So didn't do particularly well as far as my grades. They were, C plus and sometimes a B minus type of thing in school. Could have done better if I'd actually cared a little bit more, but I just wanted to do good enough to play sports and chase girls in school. So.
Well, but to me that shows consistency because I'm sure you didn't miss much school.
No.
I'm guessing. So you just go to school and it's like, and then you graduate. Me,
Yeah.
I skipped school and this and that, and no wonder I had so hard of a time.
I skipped, but I got caught. So it was a couple times.
Yeah.
Not very often because if you missed school, you could wind up sitting out a game.
Oh,
And I wasn't missing basketball and baseball games. I just wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
And a couple times I think I did get caught. I wasn't good at home. My dad was not happy. So so I didn't do that very often. A couple times, but that was it.
I just like asking that because I think it shows in the context that even
Sure.
if the police skip school.
Oh, absolutely.
I think
Yeah, I've probably fractured an occasional laws, Axel Foley would say, growing up. And, kind of how I got started in police work, I started as a fireman. And firefighting is dangerous. And we were on the roof of Arbor Way Pavilion, and our next door neighbor, Bob Miller, was my captain. And we're on the roof and it heaved. And they yelled, "Get to the ladder." And we got to the ladder. And just as we get to the ladder, the roof fell.
Oh, geez.
And then we were in a building and the fire went up the wall, across the ceiling and down behind us. And a different captain, I think it was Dennis had. And I'm pounding on his shoulder going, "Hey, hey, hey." And he's like, "Calm down." And he sprays the fire and opens the door and we go back out. And I was like, this is dangerous. And I knew it was, but I kind of started riding in a patrol car with Phil Rutledge. At that time, he was a Napoleon officer, and he'd stopped me a couple times, giving me a break, "Hey, slow down, watch what you're doing," kind of thing. And so I started riding with him, and the police cars are way faster than those fire trucks.
Yeah.
And so I kind of really enjoyed that, and I started doing that. And then we always kid that I was traded from the fire department to the police department. Actually, I was given a choice. You either be a fireman or a policeman. You can't be both. And I chose the police side. And then Chief Curry started a reserve program. I did that for 3 years. Rode all the time. I mean, I rode probably 5-6 nights a week.
Wow.
And they'd come and get me. Phil would pull in the driveway and he'd go, "Hey, you're working tonight." I'm like, "No, dude, I just got out of work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have dinner." And he's like, "All right, I'll be back in 45 minutes." So then I'd ride till 1 a.m. and then get up, and I worked at an auto parts in Brooklyn.
Cool.
And then I'd go do that job. But I was addicted to police work at that point. So it was just a matter of getting to the academy. And
that's funny to me, Chief.
Oh, yeah.
That you say fighting fires is dangerous. So
It is dangerous.
So you chose the second most dangerous job.
like I talked with you earlier, I mean, you can shoot at me, but you might miss.
Yeah.
But if you get got by fire, you're got forever. I mean, it can really, it can kill you certainly really easy, but it can maim you. If I get hit and you don't hit me in the head or the heart, chances I might have a chance of surviving.
Yeah.
And that's, believe it or not, that's how I evaluated it in my mind, that this is a better choice.
Okay.
Not that it's not dangerous, and it certainly is. And I've had those things happen, but it's firefighting is just it's not my thing. And we are at the township Napoleon. One of the things that I did when I took over as chief, the police and fire department didn't always get along all that well. They're kind of butting heads over budgetary things and didn't have a lot of money in the township. So fire stuff is really expensive and police stuff is expensive, but not as bad.
Yeah.
So they're all fighting over the same pot of money. And it created a little animosity back in those days. And I wanted, since I was a fireman for a little while, I don't know if they'll even give me credit for it, but I was for about a year. And I enjoyed it. I mean, it just, when we're having really bad stuff happen.
Yeah.
But I wanted to work hard to get the police and fire department to work well together, because my particular view on it is you can't serve the community if you're at odds with each other.
Yeah.
If you're working as a team, which is what we do in Napoleon, then you're serving your community the very best. It's their equipment. Our patrol cars don't belong to me; they belong to the community.
Yeah.
We keep them really clean inside and out. The fire chief has Greg Bickford, who's done a great job since he took over for Jay Hawley, has the same philosophy. He keeps everything clean, and we do stuff together. We play golf together. We hang out together.
Cool.
We have breakfast. We cook for the township employees and the fire department like once a month.
Cool.
And then we'll do lunch at another time so that the family or the team aspect of that is all together. And that's even the administrative side of our building, the supervisor, the office staff, and whatnot. And it just kind of keeps us all working together. And that's my philosophy, because I'll never do anything on my own that I can't do better with a team.
Yeah.
And we really work hard on that. I
was going to ask that, like how they show in the TV shows or in the movies, do firefighters and cops kind of like softball games? Like, is there a happy or healthy?
There's a lot of, and we still have a lot of that go on, because they'll, like if somebody brings donuts to the department, which they do, and they'll leave them, they'll go, oh, yeah, that must be for the cops.
Oh,
and stuff. So there's always the stereotypical stuff, and we do a lot of that, and we have a lot of fun with each other, and I'll walk through and I'll walk past a $850,000 fire truck and go, you know how many patrol cars I could buy with that? But I'm really proud of our fire department, and I'm super proud of the police department, and the whole philosophy is to get along and to serve the community the best they can. We try to invite people in, if we're driving down the road, our officers will get out, play basketball with the kids in the street if they're shooting baskets. Let them look through the patrol car, so it's got to be clean. You don't want them, crawling around in something that's dirty, and it belongs to the community. So you want them to know we're taking good care of their money. Well,
before we get back to your story, I do want to say one story that happened not too long ago. And this is why I feel like you guys, how do I word this? There have been other police departments that I have not felt so welcomed by, but I ran out of gas on the side of M50. I get out with a gas can. I go up to one of your police officers, and he gave me a ride up to the gas station and got me gas. It took me back to my car.
Yeah.
And that I just couldn't believe it. I just feel like some other police departments might not have done that, but I felt comfortable because it was the home. So,
well, in all honesty, there's not everybody that does the job does it the same. But our philosophy is to be helpful. And it's I think what is a stereotypical community police agency, I think we represent that very, very well. But when I worked for the sheriff's department, when I went there from working part-time in Napoleon, I went to the sheriff's department, and you're just so busy that you just sometimes don't have the time to have that interaction with people the way that maybe you should. I think back on my days as a deputy, I think I did a good job, and I think I treated people well. But it's completely different, because at the county, I'm handling 20 calls a night and driving all over Jackson County. In Napoleon, we're handling 6 to 8 if it's a busy night. And there's some nights it's only a couple. So we have a little more time to make sure that we give you a little more attention and help out a little bit more, because we're not late to get to that next call.
Gotcha.
And stuff like that. So sometimes I think that, and then the stress of running all over Jackson County. If you take Jackson City, those officers are in a smaller area, but they're running from call to call to call all night long. So it just that, we're fortunate because we're not that super busy that we can do stuff like that. And I love that part of it, because I think it's the most important part. So,
well, that's why I'm happy to have you on, because in normal people's mindset, they probably, you just taught me something. I didn't even think about that. Napoleon's slower, so you can be more like that. Deputies can't be more like that, because Jackson's busy.
And they have great deputies, and they have great city officers and Michigan State troopers, but there's only a few percentage of the, say, 97% of police officers are doing it the right way for the right reasons. And there's probably 3% that misfit the uniform. They don't represent the way that they should. Maybe you'll hear people talk about somebody, maybe an officer, they got picked on as a kid, so now he's got a badge and he's being a bit of a jackwagon. I work with people like that. It's not that we don't have those, but they're few and far between compared to most that I know.
Did they ever walk the beat in Jackson?
Jackson City still actually has an officer that works foot patrol from time to time, trying to get back to, because I think that's huge for community policing and visibility and stuff like that. In Napoleon, we don't walk the beat, but like we have a school liaison officer, Sergeant Mark Hotshetter, and we're at the school every morning that they're in session, We help make sure that we kind of got a dangerous road that's in front of the school. It's 25 miles an hour. We make sure the kids get through that intersection at the crosswalk safely. The fire department's with us every morning.
That's cool.
And we greet the kids and we fist bump them, high five them. And Captain Jacobson, Chris Jacobson, is a fantastic police officer. He gives kids hugs. The last day of school, we got a couple pictures on our Facebook page with one of the girls that was not going to leave unless she got hugged from him. And so those kids aren't afraid of us, you know, and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the school liaison, we got a millage several years ago that gave us the opportunity to hire a few more full-time officers. And one of them was a school liaison. And it's made a huge difference in our school as far as the safety of the kids, and makes me sleep better at night.
Yeah.
So
I just heard that Officer Jacobson came to work for you from when he got his gift card. I guess he eats where this is, and I was like,
oh yeah, that must be Booher.
yeah. I said Jacobson. I said Blackman, right? Yeah, I knew. Unfortunately, I knew him back in my being a days. So, but he was canine unit. Right?
Yeah, he was a canine.
Yeah.
And Chris did a great job when he worked for Blackman.
Yeah.
When he came to Napoleon, I thought he was going to come in and just be a, work at a kind of a retirement gig, and he'd just give me a good effort, do a good job, but just kind of be there, kind of thing. And he's just taken on our philosophy and the things that we do in the community, and he's incredible.
Yeah.
His caring for the community and the kids in the community, and he raises money for Night Out with Santa. He raises money for veterans and all those kind of things. And I mean, he's just, him and his wife Jody, and then Jerry Cox are part of the Night Out with Santa, and they've helped us at Napoleon with helping veterans around Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Sleigh ride, right? Or not sleigh ride. That's when you do the hay wagon ride.
I don't think we does hay wagon anymore. But we go around and deliver gifts and meals to veterans, and then we do the shop with a cop, or we call it shop with a hero now, because the firemen all go, and we have some JCA, the ambulance people, all the first responders go, and the departments, instead of it just being shop with a cop, we kind of morphed it into shop with a hero, and kind of got everybody involved in the party. And it kind of makes it more fun for everybody. Loves doing it, and it's fun because we try to outdo each other as far as how much money we can raise to get more families involved and stuff like that. So.
Well, that's a good competition to have. I mean, that's a healthy competition.
Twice the Christmas before last, and then this Christmas, we went around and we had a benefactor in the community, and he won't let me say his name, but he gave us $2,500, $100 bills, and then we would make traffic stops on cars or people if we knew them in the community that maybe needed a hand, and we would give them a $100 bill. Tell them, listen, get your exhaust fixed at some point, or no, use your blinker next time, but here's $100. Have a good Christmas. And so we did that last couple of years, and that's a ball.
I mean, like lights and everything.
Oh yeah, pull them over and walk up and talk to them. And generally, I mean, they committed a violation. We would follow them for a little ways, figure out what, whatever. Maybe they had an expired plate. We let them know about that, and then give them a $100 bill. So that was really exciting. It was a lot of fun.
That would blow my mind if I got pulled over.
We've had every reaction under the sun. People a little bit pissed, crying. We had a couple of people that said, "Listen, I'm doing really good. Could you give it to someone else?" That's pretty awesome. Awesome. When people like that, and a couple of times people said, "Listen, I don't really need this, but I know somebody who does," and they would pass it on. So that's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah. Man, so going from part-time. So how old were you? Just I guess just to put into perspective, when you went to Jackson County, and then how long did you work for them?
I went to Jackson County, went to the academy in 1984, and graduated, and I worked part-time. When I was a reserve was from like 81 till 84. And then
what's the difference?
Reserve, you don't get paid. You're just a volunteer. You're riding around for free. You get to be in uniform. You get the experience. You learn a lot. And then that helped me make sure I could graduate the academy, because I'm not the brightest bulb. So, but it really helped, because I already understood a large portion of the job, so I could concentrate more on the book work and the other things, so I could pass the tests and do all that kind of stuff. So I did that for 3 years. Worked in Napoleon, Norval, Columbia, and Leone part-time. And I worked 3 of them at the same time. And there were times where I would like look at my patch to see what uniform I had on. It's calling on the radio. I didn't want to call in as Columbia 7 when I was Napoleon 5. You know, so I kind of had that going on for a while. And the sheriff of Jackson County at the time, Hank Zavislak, had gotten a hold of me, and his deputies had said, "This kid's got it. You should hire him." And I didn't even meet the minimum requirements. I didn't have an associate's degree, so I never applied at the sheriff's department. And they called me and said, "Apply." And I said, "Well, I don't meet your requirements." And they said, "I said apply." And I applied, and I wound up getting the job. I was there for 23 years and 10 months. I bought back some of the time I worked in the township, so I got credit for 25 years, retired with 25 years credit service there. And then I went back to Napoleon, and I worked at the prosecutor's office for almost 6 years, a little over 5, as a cold case investigator. Cold case homicides with some of the best investigators you'll ever run into. Stubby Southworth, who was at the sheriff's department when I was younger, taught me a lot. And then Mel Hartman and then Nat Gross later on. Nat came in, and he was there when I left. But when I got the chief's job in Napoleon, when I went back, I went part-time back in Napoleon. So I did part-time there and part-time at the prosecutor's office. And then when Chief Curry retired, I applied for the job as chief and went through interviews and all that. I wound up getting it in 2016.
Awesome.
So then I quit the prosecutor's office, and I've been doing this ever since. So.
Wow. Well, I'm going to try to draw some stuff out of these stories, though.
Sure.
If I'm allowed to ask.
Absolutely.
If I'm allowed to.
Sure.
What is the craziest call when you worked for Jackson?
Oh, we had a couple homicides.
Okay.
My last 6 years, I worked in the detective bureau.
Oh,
It
cool.
was a great experience. That was awesome. But I spent a couple years in what's called JNet now, but it was LawNet when I was there back in 1989 to 92. And I had Bill Kennedy, who was a sergeant at Jackson City, who's a good friend of mine, passed away. He and I went to LawNet together, and you want to talk about taking a young farm kid out of Napoleon to Ann Arbor and start buying drugs and undercover. And you want to talk about a wake-up call. Holy shit. It was unreal. And I got, of course, I couldn't really grow my hair long because I don't have any. So the back of my hair was long. I had a beard and an earring, wore a hat almost everywhere I went, and trying to buy crack and weed and cocaine and stuff. And that was the scariest, but it was the most fun I've ever had. The adrenaline you get from walking into at that time, some of the crack houses in the city were pretty dangerous. They stick a shotgun under your chin and go, "Are you a cop?" and stuff like that. You'd have to, know and whatnot. It was scary, but I made some great friends inside that unit. Some I'm still very good friends with today, and are like my mentors. We talked about mentorship. Denny Bowling, who was a state police commander, was my boss lieutenant, and I go see him every year in Florida, hang out with him because he just taught me so much and such a great help to me. And Stubby Southworth, who was a detective at the county, gave me a bunch of informants that he had, so I had kind of a leg up. I did well because people helped me do well. And whatnot. But we had an absolute ball. We had a couple big cases. We had one that was on America's Most Wanted, a drug dealer that skipped the country.
Okay.
And it was a big drug deal. A lot of cocaine that we were actually selling to him. It was a reverse deal. And whatnot. But we had ATF, we had FBI, DEA involved in that way back then, and it was just awesome. It was a lot of fun, a lot of adrenaline when you do that, when you're doing that, pretending to be something you're not, and especially when you've been doing it for a while. And cops have a certain behavior, certain walk. People sometimes walk up to me and go, "You're a police officer, aren't you?" I'm like, "How do you know?" And they go, "Because you act like one, or you walk like one, or you talk like one." So you have to kind of get rid of that when you become a narc or an undercover officer, they call it. So, but it was just that was probably the most scared I've ever been in my life, but the most fun I've ever had in my life. So that was a good time. And other calls in Jackson, all kinds of, from robberies to homicides, different stuff like that. And Jackson doesn't have a ton, but when they do have one, it's a big deal. So it was a lot of fun to learn, and I still, to this day, I've been doing this just over 40 years, and I still learn every day. From even younger police officers will say something, and I'll like, man, I really like the way he said that, or I like how he did that. Whatever his mannerisms were or his terminology, and you kind of keep that in case you ever need it. So, but I've done that my whole career. I've stolen from everybody that was willing to teach me something my whole career. So,
Well, going from something serious to not so serious. So you've been a cop for 40 years. So you've seen the transgression of cop cars.
yeah.
What's your favorite cop car that you've ever driven?
Way back in they had the Caprices with Corvette engines in.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they were fast. Problem with them is you got up over about 96 miles an hour, the air would build up in the wheel wells, and then it would start to lift, and it'd get a little floaty. So it was a little. They weren't the most. They weren't the best handling cars.
Okay.
But my undercover car was a Z28 Camaro.
Oh, that's bad.
That was really cool. And that would go. That went pretty good. So, yeah, I've never been shy about the gas pedal, and I'm fortunate to have a license. Because of Phil Rutledge teaching me to slow down and kind of put my hammer down. We have that same philosophy in Napoleon today. We don't write every kid we stop a ticket. If we can teach them to slow down, it doesn't cost their parents money. It doesn't cost the kid money or points on his license. If he can learn. The problem is if we stop him 2 or 3 times, then now we got to make a decision. But the most fun is to say, hey, listen, is your dad so-and-so? And you go, yeah, that's okay. Well, tell him to call Duaine Pittman or Chief Pittman, and they'll go, you know my dad? And I'll go, oh yeah, I went to high school with him. And they go, oh shit. And they like, I'd rather have a ticket. I don't want to have to tell Dad about this. And then you talk to the parent, and I think we accomplished more that way quite often. So that's one thing I really enjoy about being out there, and that's something that Phil Rutledge taught me when I was a kid. He gave me a couple of breaks, and then as a police officer, that there's more than one way. You can't just write tickets to everyone. And first of all, I think that's kind of prickish, but people deserve them sometimes. If people get mouthy or stupid, I had one guy tell me one time on a traffic stop, why don't you get a cup of coffee and a donut, leave me alone. So I wrote him as many tickets as I could come up with that, but that's a rarity. I did have one guy eat a ticket once, snatched it out of my hand as I was explaining it, which he's the only one that's ever got it before I got done with my spiel. And I had it in my hand, and he snatched it, wadded it up, put it in his mouth, chewed it, and then swallowed it. And I just about died laughing. I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
Did you retake it?
Yeah,
no, I figured I don't know how he's going to pay it until he gets down to the courthouse. Maybe they can pull it up. He actually made a complaint against me for laughing at him.
What?
Yeah, they called me and it said, that's back when we had payphones.
Yeah.
And they told me to call the office. So I went, got on a payphone, called, and the sergeant says, are you laughing at people on traffic stops? And I'm like, hell yeah. You're not going to believe what this guy did. And so it wound up, I didn't get in trouble over it, but I mean, it was just, I couldn't believe it. I never seen anything like that.
Well, what else do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that was, but I mean, when we got back to the car, my partner at the time was Chuck Adams, who was a reserve at that time and then became a deputy and a sergeant and whatnot. Great guy. And we were in the car. We're laughing so damn hard. I thought we were going to piss our pants. It was funny. I mean, it was really funny. And he made a complaint. Didn't go anywhere, but he made a complaint.
Well, I clearly been a cop for 40 years, but I don't want to stay just in that. So I'm going to try to bounce back and forth.
Sure.
That's okay with you. So what was your favorite vacation away from the police force? Like going on vacation with your kids or something. What was your favorite?
Yeah, I love going to Florida. My cousin Kurt, who was an officer for a little while in Napoleon, we'd go down to Jupiter, West Palm area of Florida and hang out with him. Always had big cookouts, and that was a great time. And I still do that to this day. But I really enjoy Tennessee. So you can ride motorcycles there, like I said, 10 months out of the year. They don't have a damn straight road in Tennessee. And it's fun to ride.
Yeah.
So that one, since my kids I don't go on vacation with them all that often.
Yeah.
That's my favorite vacation spot right now. And then, but I really enjoy Florida too. My dad lived in Florida when he passed, not far from my cousin, a couple hours. So.
Did everybody just decide to leave Michigan?
Well, Kurt left. God, he's been down there 20 plus years.
Okay.
And he had done police work for a little while. and moved down to Florida and was doing great down there. He was in southern Florida, and then my dad's parents had a place down there. Then my grandpa passed away, and when my dad retired, he moved down there during the winter and took care of my grandma and hung out with her. And then he wound up taking over that house and whatnot down there. And then I have Denny Bowling, one of my mentors, is in Daytona. And I like going to NASCAR races too. So
I've seen that too. I've seen that too, racing. And
Who's your favorite driver?
Chase Elliott right now. Davey Allison was my favorite driver. And it's funny, my daughter, Caitlin, got a hold of me the other day. She had seen some stuff on YouTube about Davey Allison. And Davey and Bobby Allison that was it. The Coca-Cola Chevy back in 71, 72, that was it. And normally I drink Coke. I didn't bring one. Normally I drink Coke. And so I have all those cars from back in then and back in the day, and a bunch of Davey Allison stuff that I've given to my grandkids for, that they can have them forever, the 124 scales and stuff like that. So, yeah, but Davey and Bobby Allison, and then Dale Jarrett, Dale Jr. I mean, oh my God, that guy's just amazing.
Oh, not a senior fan?
I wasn't a senior fan, more towards the end when he wasn't winning all the time, but he was driving hard. I became a really big fan of his thing. And Dale Jr. and whatnot, how he handled the class that he handled all of that pressure when his dad passed away. I mean, you just, the only thing I could compare him to right now is like Caitlin Clark, to be that popular and to represent yourself so tremendously and very few, if any, missteps in the way that he handled the public and stuff like that under that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not almost be just a complete jackass?
Yeah.
But they never were. And so far in her career from college to pro, she just handles herself really, really well. And it's kind of funny because Caitlin and I had a discussion the other day. The thing that irritates me right now is that people are giving themselves license to be a jerk and to say it's because I'm competitive.
Yeah.
Well, you can be competitive. You don't have to be an ass.
Yeah.
I'm competitive. When I raced my brother on motorcycles, or when we played sports in the front yard, I wanted to win, but I wasn't a jerk. And today's world, society has changed so much that it's almost like if somebody's a jerk and they want to explain it away, and their parents and coaches and everybody give them, oh, he's just competitive. No, he's just a jackass. He has no class. He has no understanding of how to treat people. You can be competitive on the field and still be a gentleman or a decent person once you walk away from it, and how you handle the press or public and stuff like that. But the constant whining and the kind of the woke BS just drives me up the wall. And I almost left police work back when the woke thing started, because I'm not kissing anybody's butt. And the woke agenda doesn't work with me. And luckily, Napoleon is a very conservative, very solid town, and they don't expect me to do that. If they were expecting me to do that, I'd probably be mowing lawns at a golf course instead of doing this, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. So it's kind of interesting. It just, but that a constant thing today with the making excuses for poor behavior doesn't make any sense to me.
Your feelings are valid, but your behavior is not.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, you're allowed to feel that way, but you don't get to act that way.
Yeah,
or whatever,
And there's still a decorum when you're on the field, whether it's whatever the sport is, that you can be tough and you can be aggressive and be competitive and whatnot, but there's still lines that you don't cross.
Yeah.
It's kind of like laws. It's kind of like you do certain things, but once you break those, there's something to be learned from that. You either fix it and move on, or you continue to be that direct, go that direction. And it's kind of tough to deal with. When I was in trouble as a kid, I was guilty till proven innocent. And that's the way my dad handled everything. And there were times that I was guilty, and there were times that I was innocent. I still got punished. And then my dad was very fair. He would figure out what really happened, and he'd investigate it, talk to everybody, and he'd go, you know what? You didn't start that, and but make sure you don't ever do it again. I'm like, well, what about the whooping I got?
Yeah.
I don't get to take that back.
Yeah.
But it was more like, well, I'm sure you had one coming that I didn't get, so therefore live with it. That was kind of how it was when I grew up. So it's a little different than today's thing. My daughter is very, very good with her children. My son Austin's very good with he's got a a little boy, Liam, my grandson, and then my daughter, Kate, has Sienna, who's 15, going on 32. And then there's Nolan and Oliver.
Awesome.
And so, I mean, I watch them parent. I enjoy watching them struggle from time to time. And when they act like me or say stuff that I said, I love it. I laugh. It just makes me feel great.
Yeah.
You know, but they have occasionally some of that same stuff that you all deal with. What I dealt with them when they were kids. So it's I probably shouldn't take as much joy in it as I do, but it's kind of fun.
Do they ever use my grandpa's a cop?
My granddaughter does a little bit once in a while, but the problem for her is most everybody in Napoleon knows who I am because I'm from there. So it doesn't really take much. Most of them already know that. So sometimes they kind of pick on her a little bit about the fact that, you know, your grandpa's the chief of police, so therefore you're getting preferential treatment. The only thing she gets is occasionally I give her a ride home when I get out of work, or if she needs a ride, she rides in the police car and I drop her off and back at it. So
I mean, clearly my dad wasn't a cop, but just speaking like when he was the coach, kind of the same thing.
Sure.
Oh, well, you get special treatment. No, if anything, I'm treated worse or harder.
Absolutely.
And then I'm late to practice because of the coach, and then I'm running laps. I'm late because of my dad.
Your dad, a lot like my dad was. You know, that was a different way of dealing with stuff.
Yeah, I just thought, oh, you get that. No. I get worse. I get way worse.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, 100%. My kids, there were some benefits, I think, for my kids with me being a police officer, but there's also an expectation where people watched them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And if they did something, they wanted to talk about that. You know, all the deputy's daughter did this, or the chief's daughter did that. You know, and stuff. There's a lot of pressure for them in those situations.
I can imagine, and almost probably for a kid. I don't want to speak for them, but it'd probably be hard sometimes to go to rise to that level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they struggled with that occasionally. I think my youngest daughter did a little bit more just because of the, you know, she would be tending bar somewhere and tell somebody her last name. They go, you look familiar. And she go, yeah, my name's Callie. And they go, Callie. She go, yeah, Callie Pittman. They go, oh, I know your dad. Yeah. Callie be like, Christ, I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of like the good and bad.
Yeah.
You figure out how to deal with both, you know, kind of thing.
Well, so they say, so when I go over to my parents' house, I treat it like it's my house. I go in and open the door. I kick my feet up. As soon as I bought a house, they treated my house the same way I used to treat theirs.
Sure.
So my question to you is, do you treat your kids' house the same way they used to?
Actually, my daughter, Caitlin, and her husband, Zach, bought the house that I built when I was married.
Oh, cool.
And I've had a really nice pole barn. I used to call it the puppy condo because I was in the doghouse a lot with my ex-wife. So I called it the puppy condo because it sounded better than the doghouse. And it was a nice big pole barn and whatnot. And my daughter and Zach bought that from her when she sold it. And they're raising their kids in the house that I built. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. So it's really kind of cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. So I enjoy that part of it. And I get to go out there and they still let me use the barn.
Oh,
so that's really good. I was really sad when I lost it. You know, when I lost that pole barn. So
it's funny how I lost the damn house.
I lost the damn pole barn. I missed the pole barn probably more than I missed the house. The pole barn was awesome.
Funny. Yeah. Dad doesn't go country, so I missed the dog.
Yeah.
That's funny. I miss my dog.
Yeah. Kind of happens.
Man. Oh, geez. Well, you know, you have a great story. Pardon my mouth, but really, it's exciting to me. Thank you for coming on. I clearly still want to talk about a couple more things.
Sure.
I'm not going to throw it out there, but a lot of people that watch this know my story, and I just want to say publicly that half the reason I'm here, maybe, you know, a quarter of the reason why I'm here is because somebody showed me grace, and that was you.
Okay.
So, why do you show people grace? Who taught you that, or what was the first encounter that made you realize that some of us need grace instead of an attitude?
Well, probably Phil Rutledge in Stubby Southworth, because you don't take this job personal unless someone makes it personal, and not very many people did. So. Like our situation, when I met you and the situation that we were in interviewing you, you demonstrated a personality of someone who knew they made a mistake, trying to figure out how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to make it work? What do I got to do to get there? And then kind of came to the realization is I'm kind of screwed right now. Let's just fix it. And we fixed it. We handled it. And then you moved on. And that is what everyone should do. Because all of us make mistakes. We all trip and fall. We all, make a bad decision. We talked earlier about being on that knife's edge and you either go right or left. But that can happen to everybody, whether it's you're going through a divorce and you do something wrong in that divorce, you smack your wife or do something, or you start going to the bar and drinking all the time. Whatever it is, whether it's even a drunk driving, better than to get in the car, but you're not in a great mood, maybe a little depressed. So you go ahead and make that decision. You don't care what happens. And then now you got to face those consequences. So it's really all about how you handle it once you get back up in which direction you go. And obviously you've done a great job of doing that. And, but I kind of, like I said, I kind of saw that in you. That's something Phil taught me. It's something that, Study Southward taught me, because not everybody that makes a mistake is a bad guy. They just made a bad decision, or they made a bad choice. And that's kind of the way I think everybody should look at it. And I know the courts do that's why the backstory of when they do a pre-sentence investigation, you find out more about who that person is. Are they actually a real bad person, or are they a pretty good person that made a mistake? And then the judge can design a sentence for that person that fits the crime, provides a little punishment, but also possibly a direction to get the hell out of that and move on with their life. And everybody goes through, not everybody gets caught, but the ones that do, you wind up facing the music and figure out where you do from there. And I'm really proud of you, by the way.
Thank you. Well, one of the stories is from that day, I've seen you pass on the knowledge that I guess they passed on to you. There are plenty of charges. I had 10 charges, maybe not literally, but I had plenty of charges coming my way. Plenty. And we walked by the pot plants, and I remember a deputy said, "Hey, are we going to write that up?" And you said, "Leave it alone." And so I think you portray, you gave him the knowledge of just give him a break. He has 3 felonies. We don't need the misdemeanor. And I just seen you, I seen you pass along knowledge that I guess was passed on to you. Now that I'm mature, I see what you were doing.
Sure.
You were trying to teach him.
Again, though, that's a credit to you to notice it and to be grateful for it and understand it. Where a lot of people, and the truly bad people, always want to blame someone else and put it on society or put it on whatever it may be, and claim that as the reason. You're never going to fix it that way. No. The only way to fix it is if you screwed up, accept responsibility, whatever punishment comes with it, and then prove that you are the good person that deserved that break if you get one. And if not, even if you don't get the break, you don't want to be that person. You want to continue down that path. You fix it. And that's kind of how life is. Whether it's marriages or growing up making mistakes, driving. Like I said, we give a lot of kids 1 or 2 breaks because they live in Napoleon. If they're screwing up all the time, we're going to run into them quite a bit. And after a couple of times, then maybe we do issue a ticket, or maybe we do make a second phone call to dad. Listen, next time, there won't be any more. We're done. And whatnot. So I think I just think it's the most fair way to be. And I think most police officers actually, and I'll preface that again with most good police officers, have empathy and want to see people do well and want to see them thrive. And stuff. And we see enough bad stuff in our world that when you can read a person and figure that that's just a mistake. It's better to treat it that way than to think everybody's just a complete jerk.
I tell Katie I like eating my crow warm. So now when I screw up, I eat it warm. I don't wait. It's
much better warm.
Yes,
it's never good, but it's much better.
Yes, sir.
If you could meet younger you, would you guys get along?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I really haven't changed much. I think I'm a lot smarter now than I was, but again, that's a credit to the people that have helped me, teach me. Leadership is important, and I learned that from Phil. I have a friend of mine, Ken Hotchkiss, who's an attorney. He went to the dark side. He was a great police officer. He was probably kind of the bar that I've always set for myself. And he was only an officer for 7-8 years, but he was so good at his job. And so I kind of chased that bar.
Mhm.
Then he became an attorney, and he will occasionally tell me about someone that he's got, and he represents the township sometimes, and then sometimes he's representing someone that made a mistake. He's kind of taught me that and helped me learn leadership, and along with Phil and Stubby and the rest of them. But leadership, I think, is important. We have a deputy chief that I hope to retire in the next 3 or 4 months, and I got a great guy lined up to take my spot if the board approves of it and whatnot, and trying to pass along that information to him in hope that, I guess, if there's any legacy for me to be left once I leave Napoleon, it'll be that we built a team with the police and fire. We have a good police chief. It's going to continue the community policing that is important to me. And Napoleon's unbelievably important to me. I've been there, like I said, almost my whole life, and I think everybody should be proud of their hometown. And most people are. There's probably only a few, and I think Napoleon's pretty special. So I want to make sure I leave it better than I found it. So.
Well, I can't speak on your legacy, but I can tell you, me and my dad, because of that, there's people that will always remember your name, always. So you are at least going to live on through the 100, 200.
Yeah, they're probably some of this.
Well, yeah, there's probably some of it, but no, it's all good this way. It's all good this way, man.
Did you coach at some point?
I did. I coached my daughter in softball, my son in baseball. My oldest daughter, I coached her a little bit. It's one of those things where sometimes when you understand a sport or whatever, depending on who's coaching your kid, you want them to make sure they're coaching them the right way.
Right.
But then once you turn them over to high school where they're not being coached by a parent, now they got to stand on their own. But you want to give them those life lessons as they go forward to try to get to that point.
So a guy that I went to Ackerson with, I don't know if he found his way. I'm pretty sure he did, but Billy Ramirez. That you used to be his coach in elementary, so that's why we asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I think he was in front of Austin's.
Okay.
And Austin's about 30, 31 now.
Yep.
So I coached him, and I coached with Jim Graham, who was the superintendent, his boy Jacob, and my son Austin played sports together. We coached together and stuff like that. You just want to, kind of give them those life lessons, but then turn them loose at some point, let them learn from.
You've just always been in the community, huh?
Yeah, I tried. That's a little more selfish, though, because you really want to try to make sure your kids get pointed in the right direction, have the right sportsmanship.
Yeah.
As we talked about, handling things, because how you handle disappointment is more important than how you handle success. And so when your kid gets benched or isn't a starter, even though you're the coach, you want them to learn that lesson. Well, I don't like being on the bench, so now I got to work harder. And stuff like that. And that's the lessons watching my son with his my grandson Liam and Zach and Caitlin with Oliver and Austin and Sienna, watching them coach them and teach them those lessons and there's so much pride that comes out of that. It's crazy. So,
well, we're getting close to the end.
Sure.
Close. We got our wrap up questions. But before the wrap-up questions, so you say you're 4 months from retirement. What is your plan from now for the next 6 months?
I am going to ride my Harley Davidson.
Okay.
I'm going to play as much golf as I can. And then I want to travel. I want to travel as much as I can on my bike.
Cool.
And that was the reason I bought the motorcycle trailer recently, so I can haul my brother's bike and my bike around because I don't want to ride in the rain. I've ridden in the rain a lot because you have to be at a certain location so you can get that hotel, and then you got to be back home to go to work.
Yeah.
Well, once I retire, if it's raining, I'm not going anywhere. I'm
Right.
going to buy another night at a hotel and wait till the rain goes away. So I just want to travel, play some golf, and watch my grandkids play sports and hang out. So that's hopefully that'll be it. Well,
I'm willing to take a guess here that becoming the chief of Napoleon might not be your proudest accomplishment. What is your proudest accomplishment?
But that's right up there. My kids are you make me emotional. My kids are, for sure. But getting to be the chief of police is by far the best job I've ever had. So
that's great. A lot of people don't love their job as much as we can see you do.
Oh,
so that's great.
Yeah.
Is there something that you would like to share with everybody that not a lot of people know about you?
Oh boy.
Well, I remember one thing before you answer.
Yeah, please
You
go
love
ahead.
nachos. You told me that.
I do
out
love
of the
nachos.
back of your cop car. You gave me the.
I still have an addiction to nachos and popcorn, too. That's pretty bad. I love movies,
Okay.
especially action movies. Tombstone.
Okay.
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 Good guy, bad guy.
Yep.
So Tombstone, and I follow it. I got to actually crossed off a bucket list item with a buddy of mine, Ken Ziegler. I got to go to Arizona. We went to Tombstone. I visited the Grand Canyon,
Okay.
and my sister worked at the Grand Canyon before she passed away. She worked at a jewelry store and the restaurant that's there, the Alta Bar. And then she worked her last season in the Phantom Ranch that's down in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So I went and visited, and I talked to a friend that she was there with. I went and visited all her spots where she sat on the wall and did that. So that was really awesome. And I got to go see the Bonnie and Clyde death dance.
Nice.
Yeah, that's at Whiskey Pete's in Nevada.
Man, that was one of my favorite movies.
That
It was who was it? Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, yeah, Highwayman.
Yeah, that was a good day.
That's right up there with Tombstone, but Tombstone's been kind of stuck in my head forever. So I have a Tombstone poster in my office.
No
That's
kidding.
right behind me. Yeah.
That's Wide Earp, right?
Yeah.
And Doc Holliday.
Yeah, it's been there since the day I got the Chief,
Oh shit.
and it'll go with me when I leave for sure.
My book would be like.
Yeah.
Would be like
Oh, that's a great
I
movie.
like that one. If
And
I
Denzel was a
I'm
fantastic.
just gonna say, if I had a guy crush, it would be Denzel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I love Denzel Washington.
Yeah. I like Kevin Costner a lot. I think he's pretty tremendous actor. So that's probably my favorite male actor at this point.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to let you go, but I know you're gotta be somewhere by 7, and then but
Sure.
I want to extend an invite when you come to retirement if you ever want to come back on.
Sure.
That spot is always yours.
Okay.
Second, thank you for coming on. But what is your definition of success?
I would say probably just having people respect you. If people think that, because you never get to determine your own legacy or what people think of you. But when I go, and I've told this to my kids, and I don't know, I want to be cremated, but it's just like, if they want to put that I was a good cop, that's all I need.
Mhm.
But so that's kind of what I hope, winds up out of it. I mean, good, bad, sometimes even people that maybe didn't like what you represented or how you treated them, or the fact that they got in trouble. If at some point you go, this is a pretty damn good cop, that'll be enough.
Well, and realistically, there's two sides to everything, and normally one side's more right than the other.
Sure.
So the people that got in trouble, 3 sides, you're
There
on
is
my
3
side,
sides.
and the truth.
Yeah,
I
the
get
truth,
it,
yeah.
but
Absolutely.
still,
That's very good, by the way.
Is there anything I missed that you'd like to share?
No, I was telling you guys that my daughter Caitlin and I have started recording some podcasts called Into the Blue, Embracing the Gray, because she's a mental health clinician, and she has a very strong take on the mental health field and what that has to do sometimes with crime and where people go, and addiction as well. So how people get from point A to point B in stuff. So we have a lot of fun. We're just getting ready to start recording some more of that, hopefully put it on. I would love at some point to have you guys come on and once we get it rolling and whatnot. Hopefully in retirement, I'll be able to do a little bit more of that. And she's busy with the 3 kids and her job and husband and all that stuff. So, but we have a lot of fun with it. So it's kind of like what you guys are doing here, which is awesome.
Cool. Thank you. Well, before you ask your wrap-up question, I do just want to show the couple things that he got me. I know, but I'm not going to do a zoom up, but I am very grateful for this. Really, I am super happy. I'll post pictures with the video, but I really am. Thank you.
Well, like I said, it was a true honor to come on here. So.
Thank you. Well, it really does mean a lot. I like thinking that I'm memorable. That's a little bit of ego, but also it goes back to I just want to make an impact. So I must have been somewhat memorable enough for you to remember me then, and then think I'm doing good enough now to come on.
Oh, you've been very gracious. I mean, you called me long before this when you when you got out and were kind of getting your life straightened out. And I think if I remember correctly, you had promised me that you were going to do better.
Yes, sir.
And whatnot. And I remember that kind of stuff. So
Well, because
Yeah.
it takes one person to take a shot on you.
Yeah.
And I just so happened you started, and then I had a couple more people that took a shot on me. But if it wasn't you first, then none of them would have mattered.
but a lot of that, you still got to remember, a lot of that has to do with who you are as a person, because you represented that person that just needed help, didn't necessarily need to be put away and considered a terrible person.
Yes, sir.
Just you made a mistake and you figure out how to fix it. And that is credit to you, credit to your parents too, is how they raised you.
Yes.
And what, because I remember your mom and I didn't get along right away at the house, but in the long run,
Yeah.
I think we did,
Yeah.
kind of towards the end. But, our parents are protective,
Yeah.
and I understood that. It was never mad at your mom. I understood exactly what she was doing. Same with your dad.
His parents said hi, by the way, in the comments.
Oh, they're great people, and I remember when your dad had the accident. When I saw that last name, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, I know you.
Yeah.
And that is the bad part about working in a community where you grew up, because you're there for the really great moments in people's lives, and then I've also been at the death of a close family friend, or somebody who's close to my parents and was like a mom to me when I grew up. And then we get the call to go there, and you kind of struggle with that. And one thing I was going to tell you too, with my daughter does post-traumatic stress, and she's trained in the
EMDR?
EMDR.
Yes.
She,
love
I
that.
actually sent her to Arizona for that, and she always looks at me and that's not to judge you people, but you're always looking. And I am too, but my daughter looks at me, she goes, Dad, you're full of post-traumatic stress. And I am. There's no doubt about it. And I'm doing the best I can with it. But it's a great thing that she can offer people. And we're hoping to get that.
It changed my life.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic. Like opened new doors. I've been there for years, and then
Sure.
that like bam.
Yeah,
So,
it's amazing. And I think people will, if they ever experience it, will understand how impactful it is. So I've actually had it work on me. So that's
it
why
can be traumatic. I
Oh,
do tell people that
it is.
you'll get thrown right back into the trauma, but
Sure.
then you get out. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. So that's one of the things that Kate and I want to talk about on the podcast once we get it rolling again and stuff like that. Like I said, I'd love at some point to have you come on
Of
that,
course.
and we get a chance to chat it up some more.
Oh, well, God, it's funny. I say that I want to wrap up, but then I get to thinking of stuff.
I got time.
Awesome. Well, no, I remember this one story that you told me. I'll try to tell you so you remember, so I don't spoil it. But you said that you were going to, you had a call at a house, and then you said that you were behind this person, and they thought that you were gonna. She thought that you were gonna pull her over,
Yeah.
and then you went to the. Would you
I
mind
tell-
telling that
I
story?
tell that story all the
I
time.
love it.
I was in Michigan Center on Page Avenue, and we got a call of a break-in on way out on Lee Road,
Okay.
almost to Wolf Lake Road. And so I was on my way, and I go down Page Avenue, and this lady's in front of me, and she turns on Fifth Street, and I turn on Fifth Street, and then she turns on Napoleon Road, and I turn on Napoleon Road. And I'm going to go down to Lee Road and go to the complaint while I'm following her. And I'm thinking the whole time, God, I got to get going. I got to get to this house. It had a break-in. And this lady turns her blinker on and goes down Lee Road. And I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake, And I turn, and she immediately pulls over. And she jumps out. I get out of the car, and she's half out of the car. And she's like, why are you following me? And I'm like, I'm not following you. I'm going somewhere. But since we're here, I need to see your license. And she's pissed. And she gets her driver's license and hands it to me. And I look at the address, and I go, well, actually, I'm headed to your house. Apparently, there's a break-in. Your husband's there. I guess I'll see you there. I handed her driver's license back. And then I got in the car and just drove around her and went on to the house. And when we got to the house, you talk about eating crow.
Yeah.
When she got there, she was so humble. She was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And her husband's like, what are you sorry about? What are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, well, we had a little meeting on the road. She's like, oh, I was being a jerk and whatever. It's just one of those things where I think a lot of times people think that they're being followed.
Mhm.
And many times they're not. The officer's just on his way somewhere or headed down the road and happens to be behind you. Because if he wants to stop you, he'll find that reason, he'll run your plate, make sure you're valid, do all those kinds of things. So it's not necessarily I'm following you, try to force you into a mistake.
Yeah.
And I think people have a false, whether it comes from movies and TV or social media. Sometimes those narratives aren't exactly true.
Well,
And that was a fun one because that was crow and that was served cold. That was as cold as you can get right there.
yeah, I remember that story because I say it to her all the time. Like they're probably just going somewhere. They're probably just going somewhere. I remember that in the back of my head. I'm like, they are not following us. I mean, I'm as legal as you can get now.
Sure.
That's not a concern, but it's still like they're just going somewhere.
It's still, when you're driving and there's a police officer behind you, and
I don't like them behind me. But there's times where I've been going down the road and I've been behind the same car for a little bit. I'm just trying to get to the office to go to the bathroom, and I need them to get out of my way. But I'm not following. But it may seem like it depending on how many turns they take. Sometimes if I've been behind somebody too long, I'll just go another direction because I'm not there to agonize people or make them feel that pressure. If I don't have any particular reason to go that direction, but I've been behind them a while, I'll just turn and go somewhere else. Just because I understand that feeling. I mean, everybody gets it.
Well, I'm super grateful because the embodiment of prisoner to painter, what I wanted it to be, is law enforcement, business owners, ex-addicts. I wanted this to be everybody.
Sure.
It's all inclusive. So
well, we're all part of it.
Yeah.
It's all part of that system and whatnot. And it's I have family members that have had addiction issues and stuff. So I mean, it affects everyone.
Yeah.
In how you deal with it, how you figure it out, and therapy, of course, and that kind of stuff helps so much for people. You just want to see people live a decent life.
Yeah.
And prosper the best they can. That's what you hope for.
Yeah.
And most police officers, when they start this job, they want to be there to help people. I can't say that there aren't a few, but like I said, maybe less than 3% misfit the uniform and are there because they're a prick, or there because they were picked on, or they have, the badge syndrome, look at me type thing. First of all, that's not who I am as a person. But Phil Rutledge would have never allowed me to be that person.
Yeah.
And Ramon Beltran and Chief Curry and all those guys, and then all the deputies at the sheriff's department who were, when you're coming up, they're watching you. And if you're a jerk, they're going to tell you you're a jerk. And they'll tell you, don't treat people that way. Lee Cope, Rodney Straub, some of the older deputies, Al Jensen. If you did something wrong or they thought that's just not the way to be, they'd tell you. And then you either learn from it or next time, a special assignment came up, you weren't going to get it because you're a jerk.
Yeah.
So if an officer goes through his whole career, tries to get special assignments in a bigger department, can never get them, they probably should look in the mirror to see what they're doing wrong. Because if you're doing a good job and people like you, somebody will reach back and try to help you get to whatever goal you're trying to get to. And that's huge.
Well, so I invite on addicts clearly because addicts, that story speaks for itself.
Sure.
I mean, let's say, but I invite on business owners because I think the world thinks, oh, well, I can never start a business or I can never do this. Well, no, this guy who was a drug addict started a business, or this guy who used to get beat on as a kid started a business.
Sure.
Invite on musicians, and I invite on all these people. But the reason I wanted a police officer on is because I think most people almost alienate you guys. Like I don't look at you as a cop. Well, of course you're a cop. But I'm saying, but I know you as Chief Pittman, but that's like me calling Phil boss.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Sure.
You're a friend now.
Yeah.
I just wanted people to see cops as that they're not just cops.
Sure.
They're people.
Yeah.
I want to help people. You want to help people.
Well, everybody has a story. There is knowledge in stories, right?
Sure.
And then knowledge is power. So hearing somebody's story that you have dealt with the same things gives you the power to ascend out of the issues that you could have not known how to get out of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also false pretenses of all cops are bad. Well, no, because you're sitting right here and you're not bad. Or all cops are this, all cops are that. And you break every stigma in itself.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Like we talked about Captain Jacobson.
Yeah.
He would be a great person that said that he's got some great stories and he loves to tell those stories. I always tell everybody he could talk the balls off a pool table.
Oh.
He's a great representative of what law enforcement is. So at some point he'd be a good one if you want to ever have someone else on.
Yeah, I do.
And I know he'd love to do it because he's just that kind of guy. But yeah, I want people not to distrust the police and to work together. And again, Napoleon's a very strong conservative community. They support the police and fire department. They support what we do, both with their votes for the millage and their tax money and stuff like that. So we try to give them the best service that we can for that money and whatnot. And it's just, I hate it when I see an officer that I think isn't doing it the right way. And you try as carefully as you can to maybe steer them in a different direction if you see one of those that does that. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we've done in Napoleon, the way our officers treat people. But then again, there becomes a time once in a while you have to do the job, and when you do it, you have to do it right. So
yeah. Well, and bad stuff happens everywhere. I mean, so it doesn't matter really where we are. Bad stuff happens everywhere.
If there was one word you had to sum up your entire journey from where you started to where you are now, what would it be? It has to be one word. That's the only.
I would say leadership.
We are trying to do. I think that there have to be words that overlap because everybody who has found success in some facet of their life is going to say the same word. You have to find the same word.
I think we have to overlap,
but
yeah.
So it's kind of like it's not a science experiment, but we're just trying to see if people say the same.
Sure.
Out of 50 people, we have not had the same words.
Yeah, that's awesome.
we have the same definition of success, but not the same like defining word.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that part.
You're just curious because it's like it seems like something's got to be the same. Like people that have found success, no matter what areas, something's got to overlap. Which we found a lot of overlap.
Sure. Oh, there's got to be because that success is built out of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then I also like showing that success is like for me going from a drunk to making 6 figures, but now from losing that to not giving up. It's success or just becoming a.
It's just a setback.
Yeah,
it's just a setback.
Well, and then giving up now would totally pee away everything else. So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
worth it. So
well, that's not who you are.
No, sir. But then same with perfect. So because sometimes our battery cuts out on our camera, which wouldn't mean that you wouldn't be able to hear us. I just want to make sure that I present this, and then we'll probably wrap up.
All right.
They don't have one.
They don't have it about.
But we kind of know about them.
Well, okay. Well, Craig Booher and Devin Otto.
I had lunch here today.
No kidding.
Yeah,
okay.
It's on you.
Well, so $25 that was donated from him. I actually did not purchase this one. They specifically gave that to you. Devin actually met me there at 8:00, and they were open till 11 to make sure that I got that gift card.
That's so awesome.
Yep.
I went there today, and like Craig said, that Jacobson eats there quite often.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course, yeah. But like I said, I really just want to reiterate that he was so grateful coming on, and we built this little relationship. I told him you were coming on, and he said, "Well, I'll be there at 8." And he met me there 2 hours or 3 hours early.
He did good because he didn't say a word today.
No kidding. Okay, cool. Yep. So he met me there 3 hours early, and I was very happy with him.
That's awesome.
I'm very happy with him anyway.
Yeah, he does a super job. We eat there quite a bit. So.
Okay, cool. Well, so we'll log off of here, but
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
thank you. I'll take your hand.
It's good to see you.
Yes,
brother.
sir. Would you mind signing our table?
Absolutely.
Heck yeah. It's a